Alright, I'm just going to show you now how to use Lightroom right from importing your photos through to editing and exporting them as JPEGs, okay? Now, the first time you log into Adobe Lightroom, you need to log in with your school login, okay? Once you've done that, it'll ask you to set up what's called a catalog file. Okay? It will even pop up an error message and ask you to add one. So, once you do that, find a location, and that location needs to be on your OneDrive, okay? Give it a name. The name's not too important at this stage, but save that and your screen will then look a bit like this, okay? Once you've got there, we've got our SD card with our photos on it. We need to get them from the SD card to the computer, okay? So File, Import Photos and Video. And this is where we're going to be clever. On the left-hand side is where we're importing the photos from. These are all the photos that we've taken in the middle, and there's a few little nifty things on the right hand side which I'm going to show you. Okay. Now, first things first, you can select all the photos. Just to make it a bit quicker, I'm going to just make it a slightly shorter list. So we can import these 5 here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I want Lightroom to rename the files from these things here, say DSC004, which isn't meaningful, it's not helpful as a name. I'm going to call it something else. So on the file renaming, tick the box that says rename files. On the drop down, change it to custom name and sequence. And I'm going to change it to, for example, unedited photos. Okay. And even at the bottom here, it gives you an example of what the actual file name will look like. Okay. And that's much more helpful. In order to help fulfill the area on the mark scheme about appropriately naming files and folders and keeping our content organized, I might also think about screenshotting this little top corner here to add it into my coursework. All right. The last thing to do is to specify where we want it to import the photos to. Okay. Now, just due to the nuances of how Bishop Stopford's content works, we need to import it to your documents, i.e. the network drive, not OneDrive. All right. So choose where you want that to be. Under here, because mine's a bit different, you'll have a drive with your name on it. So click on that. Choose the area where you want to keep it. Ignore my OneDrive there. Mine's actually network drive. And say where you want to port it. Okay. I might say R090. And then if I haven't got a photo already called unedited photos, I can get it to say, Lightroom, please create a subfolder for me called unedited photos and organize them just into one folder. Okay. But in this case, I've already done that here. So just to recap, left side, where we're importing photos from, select all the photos which you want to ingest, rename them upon importing, and where we're importing them to, and press import. Now across the top here, there'll be a progress bar as it imports them one by one. And once it's finished, you'll see that bar disappear and all of your photos there. Okay, let's just click on this little arrow here to minimize the top bar to give us a bit more screen space. And then we can see our photos. To full screen it, just double click on a photo. Now we're ready to start selecting the ones that we want. Okay, now you might have taken, for example, over 100 photos on your photo shoot, but we want to start to get towards getting down to our final 10 for our portfolio. At this stage, it doesn't matter if you get it down to maybe 15 or 20, we can pick our final 10 at the end. But let's say we're having a look through. There's a couple of ways you can select or earmark the ones you want to keep. And that's not really a right or wrong way of doing this. One way you might want it will be to use a star rating system. To do that, you can either click on the buttons here, or as a shortcut, just on your keyboard, press 5 or 4, 3, 2, or 1. And it's quite small, but down here you can see what it's been rated as. Yep. Another way to do it might be to use a flag system. This is my preference. If I like something, I'm going to flag it. Okay, to say, I like this. The shortcut for that is P, or to unflag it, you can press U. If it's blurry, if it's terrible, if it's a photo that's really atrocious, and I think in my mind, I definitely don't want this photo, I'm just going to press X to reject it. Or the little black flag here with the cross on it. Okay. Now finally, let's just say, for example, I've picked these 3 photos here, the ones that I want. Okay. In order just to filter them off, to filter the ones I want to edit, it's a much more efficient workflow, click on the right hand side here under filters. I can either filter by rated photo, or in my case, filter off flagged photos. And it just shows me the 3 here. Okay. So I'm now telling myself these are the 3 photos which I want to keep and use in my portfolio. I'm now going to come back up here and go to the develop module. And this is where we actually edit the final photos. Now, in the spec it says don't edit your photos significantly. All right. But you do need to present why you use certain features and settings in the way that you did. If you can't remember what settings you used, it actually tells you up here in the top left-hand corner. So this photo was taken ISO 400, with a focal length of 30mm, f13 aperture, and exposure speed of 1/320th of a second. If you want to crop a photo, use this crop tool here. And you can change it. Simply if you want to change the aspect ratio, say square, or something else, you can do so in this box here. Change it as you wish. Okay. Helpfully, as a guide, this is for more advanced users, it gives you a rule of thirds overlay. So you can actually refine it slightly more if you wish. If you press the O button, you can cycle through different composition templates just to help you guide what you might want to use. Okay. But for now, I'm just going to keep it like this. And to complete it, to come out of this, press enter, and it will save. Now the main things you're going to want to use will be the exposure tools. So we can change our exposure, our contrast, highlights, keeping on our histogram. Maybe lift the shadows a little bit, and the rest of it's largely okay. Remember that the general aim of a histogram, or changing exposure, is to get this curve pretty much centered in the middle. So maybe about there would be what I'll deem as being correctly exposed, okay? In terms of subtle adjustments, this is absolutely fine, okay? If you want to compare how something looked before and after, the shortcut is in the bottom left of your keyboard, and it's the / just between the Shift and the Z key. But press that once, show me before and after, okay? And something like this would be deemed as being acceptable in terms of editing and not too over the top. All right. The rest of these drop-down boxes you can generally leave as they are. The one you might want to consider specific to architectural photography is the transform tool. Now, because with a camera, vertical lines in the camera will tend to converge. Okay, and you've learnt this in art. If you look at the lines here, they tend to start pointing towards the middle. Now, if you click on the transform box, we can actually either manually or even automatically get it to fix those verticals for us. And this is a really good tool to take your architectural photography to the next level. Okay. So let's minimize that box there. Just coming back to exposure for a second. Again, absolutely no harm at all, no shame in pressing the auto button. Now, what's just one thing to be aware of, Lightroom is quite intelligent, but it's not that intelligent. So it will change these parameters based upon what it thinks is best. But absolutely do check it. Feel free to override it if you feel that is necessary. Once you've been through and edited all of your photos that you're happy, the last thing we want to do is export them because they're still raw files. And we want to export them in a suitable file format. Now either press Edit, Select All, or as a shortcut, Control A to select all of the photos which you want to export. Come up to File, Export, and under here, again, this is the second bit where it comes back to appropriately naming and organising your files and your folders. So firstly, I'm going to look at the export location up here. I'm going to say here, I want to choose to export it to a specific folder. I've chosen to export it to a new folder called Edited Photos. You could perhaps give it another name or create an additional subfolder. And again, under file naming, I'm now going to export them as, let's say, Edited Photos R090. So this is so it will automatically rename my final JPEGs or TIFFs as I want. Okay. Again, under file settings, we can choose a file type we want them to be. Leave quality between 60 and 70, that's fine. And if it's for print, use an appropriate DPI, or if it's for screen use, I might use 72. And the other tabs we can leave as they are. And the last thing to do, don't press done, but press export along the top here. Okay, once that's done, go to your File Explorer, go to that location and just check that your final files you're happy with. And that is how you use Adobe Lightroom.